really for those gut conditions, diet is such an obvious topic because that's literally what you put into your mouth that goes right into that system, right? So the correlation between what you eat and how healthy your gut is enormous. And that probably also explains why that's where most people want to start if they want to feel better, if they want to improve their health. There's so many different diets out there, it's really overwhelming. So if you do start that search, if you go on Google, find out about the different diets, about what healthy eating really looks like, which foods are the healthiest foods to eat, every page that you will open will tell you something different. And that's something that I went through and I found extremely overwhelming. And especially when you're dealing with a chronic health condition, you already have no energy. Then you have to deal with that on top, finding out what the perfect diet is, how to do the whole diet change. It's overwhelming. And it's something that one of the biggest mistakes that I probably made, to start there when I have no capacity really to even deal with that, because it's a huge change and it has a big impact emotionally, what we eat. It has a big impact on simply like our whole lives, how we prepare food, when we eat, what we eat, all of these things. So it's not something I would often recommend people start. I would usually recommend they start with something that gives them a bit more energy off the bat and that improves their mindset a bit, so they have the capacity again to deal with that. But when we then go to diet changes, and I mentioned before the overwhelming amount of different diet recommendations that are out there, what eventually made most sense for me after I really went through all the different things, I tried all the different diets from vegan to vegetarian, Mediterranean, anti-inflammatory, carnivore, like all the diets, right? And none of that really helped me. And I was at a point where I thought, like, why? It doesn't make sense to me that there's that many diets out there. For every diet, you will find different scientific evidence that this is the best diet out there. And it didn't make sense to me. And eventually what did make sense to me was that the only reason why you could explain that every single diet that's out there, there's some scientific evidence for it, depending on the people that you observe, is that evolutionary, as human beings, we lived in different areas of the world and different kinds of foods were available to us. So of course, someone who lives in the desert or in an extremely hot country will have a completely different diet than someone who lives in a cold countries, like across, the North Pole or something, and in the Nordic countries. They must have, like, their bodies must be used to different kinds of food. So if you observe these two distinct cultures, they will have very different diets that are optimal for them. So we can't come in with one diet and say this is the best diet for every person on the planet. It just doesn't work. It doesn't make any biological sense. So what did make most sense for me eventually, what I then found out, is a elimination diet, which is a diet that basically lets you eliminate for a specific period of time different kinds of foods, to then eventually reintroduce them and see if you react to them. And one that makes most sense for people with autoimmune diseases is called the Autoimmune Protocol, or AIP. And that's a diet that has you eliminate food groups that are most critical for people with autoimmune diseases, and that are, for example, foods that are highly inflammatory,